So why would you want to be putting money into these plans? Well, they're the only triple tax-free account that's out there. What that means is that you receive a deduction when the contribution goes in, when you're putting in your own money. The money grows tax deferred. And then when you take the money out, as long as you use it for health-related costs, then it's not taxable to you. No other account, 401k, IRA, 529, offers you that option.
Are you ready for a successful retirement? We're addressing the topics facing today's retirees. Welcome to Retire with Ryan. Now here's your host, Ryan Morrissey.
Welcome back. This week, we're going to circle back to a topic that I covered in episode 1, and that is health savings accounts. And if you haven't listened to episode 1, I suggest you go back and do so. But I'm going to focus more on the best options for your health savings accounts, as well as talking about actually getting money out of those plans. And if you have listened to episode 1, or maybe you haven't, just to cover the basics of what a health savings account is. A health savings account is available to you if you qualify by having a high deductible health plan. And if your deductible is high enough and your out-of-pocket maximum is not more than a certain amount, then you qualify for one of these plans. And most people have these plans through their employer where you can have a certain amount come out of your paycheck that goes into the health savings account. And your employer may make a certain contribution into the plan each year. So between what your employer puts in and what you put in, you're able to put a maximum in per year based on whether you're single or whether you're married or have a dependent. So if you're single for 2021, the limit is $3,600 for an individual, $7,200 for a family. And then if you're over 55, you can put an additional $1,000 into the plan. So why would you want to be putting money into these plans? Well, they're the only triple tax-free account that's out there. What that means is that you receive a deduction when the contribution goes in, when you're putting in your own money. The money grows tax deferred. And then when you take the money out, as long as you use it for health-related costs, then it's not taxable to you. No other account, 401k, IRA, 529, offers you that option. Additionally, you have the ability to invest this money, and you could invest it in stocks, individual stocks, stock funds, so that you can have growth on this money and it can accumulate to be money that you can use later in life for health-related costs. And if you want to take the money out for non-health related costs, then you would pay tax on the gains that you had in there. And you also have the ability at any point, if you've had health-related expenses and you've tracked them, to take the money out and reimburse yourself. So let's just say you would put in $10,000 into a health savings account and you've had $6,000 of expenses that you decided to pay out of pocket. Then at any point, you can take out the $6,000 from that $10,000 HSA account and reimburse yourself for what's in the plan. And where these things really can benefit you is that if you invest the money and you leave the money deferred for a long time, and you have the ability to pay out of pocket for minor health expenses that come up, and you leave the money in the HSA account, it can really build up. So Morningstar is a company that does analysis on mutual funds and investments, has issued a report for the last 3 years on the top HSA accounts that are out there, where they review them based on the costs that they have, the investment options, and some other features. And I want to review that report because I think it's worth noting what some of the top HSA providers are. And if you have money in an HSA account that either doesn't give you investment options, because some HSA accounts, even through employers, don't give you investment options, which I think is really crucial, or they give you a limited choice of investment options, or maybe they charge you a fee for investing the money, then you want to think about using one of these other providers, because chances are it's going to give you better options than what you currently have. And you may or may not know, but you don't have to leave your money in the HSA provider that your employer offers. It's easy to have it come out and go in there through payroll deductions, but at any point, you can set up an HSA account with another provider and you can transfer the money over to this new provider. And you could also make up any differences if you didn't meet the maximum. Let's say that you only put in $5,000, but you want to put in an additional $2,200 to get up to the family limit of $7,200. Then depending on your HSA provider through your employer, they may let you make a contribution directly to them. If not, you could open up an HSA account with one of these other providers, and you could send the money directly to them. That's personally what I do. My wife's employer is who we have our health insurance through. And so she puts a certain amount in each paycheck. And then at the end of the year, if we haven't met the family maximum, then I have an HSA account for myself, able to contribute the money into. So the 11 HSA providers that they reviewed are Fidelity, Lively, Health Equity, the HSA Authority, Fifth Third, HSA Bank, Optum, Bend, Bank of America, Further, and Health Savings. So maybe you are already using one of these, maybe you're using one not on this list. And the way they broke these down is they broke them down into providers that were appropriate for spenders and that were appropriate for investors. So if you're later in life and you're starting to spend down the balance that you have in there, then maybe you want to look towards one of the spender providers. Or if you're building up what you have in there, you're not really taking money out, then maybe you want to look at one of the investor providers. So for the spender providers, some of the things that they noted, and again, I'll put a link in the show notes to where you can go and download this report. You just have to enter your email address, Morningstar requires, and then they immediately will email you the report. If they start spamming you, you could unsubscribe, but there isn't a way for me to just share the report with you directly. So what you'd want to avoid as a spender is avoiding maintenance fees. Some of these providers will charge you like a monthly maintenance fee, and there's really no reason to be charged this. So if you're getting charged a monthly maintenance fee just to have your money there, you want to think about transferring it out, because especially now with interest rates being so low, you're really not earning anything on this money if you don't have it invested. And that leads me to the next thing, is that you should be offered a reasonable interest rate. Well, unfortunately right now, because interest rates are pretty low, there really isn't a very reasonable interest rate. So you're not getting a whole lot of interest on cash, which is definitely a reason why you'd want to think about investing some of this money, even into like a short-term bond fund or treasury bond fund. You'll probably do better than just leaving it in cash or money market. You'd also want to avoid any one-off additional fees that some of these providers can charge. And then if you do have a large cash balance, you probably want to look for one that offers you FDIC insurance on your deposits, right? And then if you're an investor, what you want to seek out is a well-designed investment menu with high quality and inexpensive options in what would be known as the core asset classes without a lot of overlap. What that means is that you don't want to have just 3 or 4 investment options. You'd want to have at least probably a dozen investment options where you could have exposure to large cap stocks, small cap stocks, mid cap, probably a few international investments, emerging markets, maybe real estate, and then a mixture of bond investments, probably a corporate bond option, a treasury bond option, and maybe like a bond index fund option. And then you'd want those to have low investment costs, right? So offer a mixture of maybe index-based funds, which I'm a fan of, that have low costs, as well as offering maybe some actively managed funds, and have them charge you 0 to low maintenance fees. And you should also not be required to keep a lot of money in your checking account before investing. That's what some of these providers will require, that you have to build up a certain balance, maybe like $1,000 or $5,000 before you can invest the money. And that's not great, because that means you have a good portion of your money that's not earning any interest, especially now. And you'll see if you look at this report that the top HSA providers for spenders are Lively and Fidelity. And if you remember from episode 1 where I talked about health savings account, I have my account with Fidelity. And I think they're very easy to work with. And as far as spending the money, you might be thinking, well, I've got this money in here. How do I actually get it out? Well, Fidelity offers you 4 different options. You can request a debit card. And maybe you already have one of these with your current HSA provider. Well, then you can just swipe it wherever you go to the doctor, or give them the card numbers over the phone to pay bills. They have a bill pay option. They offer checks. You can get a checkbook, I should say. Or, which is sometimes the easiest, whenever you want to pay for something, you would just pay for it out of pocket, and then you just have the money sent from Fidelity back to your bank account. So you could have it ACH right back to your bank account. And it's really up to you, but it's pretty easy as far as getting the money out. And you might be wondering, well, is it okay for me to pay for it out of pocket and then reimburse myself? Well, yes, that is a perfectly acceptable option. And then as far as for investors, Fidelity is actually ranked the highest of the providers for investors. And I can attest to the reasons being why is that Fidelity, just like having a regular account with Fidelity, you have access to all the same investment options. So they have a selection of low-cost index funds, Fidelity funds that you can choose from. They also have actively managed funds you can choose from, as well as you can buy individual stocks or bonds if you want to do that. So because of all that, and because of the fact that they don't charge you a fee to have the account there are fees inside of the funds if you're going to buy mutual funds, depending on the mutual fund you buy. But there's a lot of them that have very low cost. So you really have a good selection. I'm not familiar with Lively, so I can't attest to what their platform is, but they were ranked highly, so I'm not sure. But if you have a low balance account or you're being charged low balance fees, could be a reason to think about switching it out. And Fidelity has about 10.5% of the market share of HSA accounts out there. This article also points out that HSA investment accounts remain highly underutilized, with only 6% of account holders actually investing their money. So a lot of people that have HSA accounts either don't realize they can invest the money or don't do it. So a lot of them are not earning any interest or making any return on their money. But this is, however, is improvement over a 2016 number that said only 2% of people actually invest their money. And most employers offer HSA accounts, and that's actually the majority of the money. 75% of all HSA assets are in employer-sponsored plans. So definitely go check out this article, but I'd say your follow-up from this would be, if you have an HSA account that has a good amount of money in it and it's not invested, then you should think about putting together an investment strategy for that money, either within the investment options that you can utilize or opening up an account somewhere else and transferring the money there so that it can be invested. And if you don't have a health savings account and you qualify for one, or maybe you just don't put very much into it, then you should really think about fully funding that up to the maximum. I mentioned this in episode 1 that as far as order of saving, I would first look to get whatever the match is offered by your employer in your 401k, because that's free money. And then once you've satisfied that, then I would think about maximizing out your health savings account if you qualify for one, because of the fact of the triple tax-free benefit, and then investing the money and doing your best to not use the money. Don't just put it in and take it out, because yes, that's helping you to get a tax deduction, but it's not really giving you the true benefit of compound tax-free deferral and also tax-free withdrawals later in life. So I hope this updates you a little bit on health savings accounts. And if you aren't subscribed to my podcast, I would appreciate you subscribing by pulling out your iPhone, pulling out Apple Podcasts, typing in Retire with Ryan, and then subscribing. Or you can go to my website, retirewithryan.com. And if you click on podcasts and then podcast player, at the top there, you'll see subscribe, and you can click on the different podcast apps to subscribe. Have an awesome week, and I look forward to talking to you next Wednesday. Take care.
You should consult a financial advisor familiar with your specific circumstances before you make any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mention of rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. Ryan Morrissey, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Morrissey Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor.